What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today is Monday and it is my 8th and final week of internal medicine. And since it's my last week, that means I have some extra stuff to do, like an OSCE and a shelf exam at the end of the week. At this point, I'm really not sure what the video looks like on your end. It might look a little bit different. That's because I am using a different camera. I recently got the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and I'm going to be trying it out for this video, which is why I'm talking into this mic right here. So like I said, it is Monday. I only have 3 days of clinical responsibilities this week because then Thursday is my OSCE and Friday is my shelf exam. So these next few days are kind of just going to be business as usual. I'm on the same team that I was last week, so I'm very familiar with the attending. However, we do have a new resident. I'm also very familiar with all the patients that I've been following, so unless we get some new admissions, it should be a pretty smooth week. Alright, so I'm back home after my OSCE and the lighting is a little bit better, so now I can really talk about what happened. So we had 3 cases. One of them was a pretty typical abdominal pain case that we have seen before in other classes. So that encounter itself wasn't too bad. However, an added part of that, which we haven't done before, is putting in sign-out orders. So that's a really big part of working in a hospital. When you're the day team, you have to go through and sign out to whatever person is covering during the night. So you have to give sort of a summary of the patient, things to watch, things that you want that person to do, like draw certain labs, give certain medication, and then also things to look out for. So if the patient's blood pressure drops below a certain whatever, you should give this, or you should call me, all that kind of stuff. So part of that OSCE was writing something along those lines. Then we had a second case that was a little bit more ambiguous, as basically the patient was just feeling really dizzy, and a lot of the physical exam stuff was not helpful at all. A lot of the labs and imaging that we got also was not very helpful. So you really had to sort of think outside the box and really listen to the patient's story. There's a lot of stuff just in the history that pointed to a particular diagnosis. So if you didn't catch that by asking your questions, you probably would have missed the diagnosis. And then with that one, we had to write admission orders. The patient needed to be admitted for a certain treatment. So we had this really big acronym. I can't really remember it, but it basically went through all the steps of admitting a patient, including all of the medication orders, what floor they should go to, if they need telemetry or not, which is sort of like constant EKG monitoring. Yeah, those were pretty good. And then our last one was very different. It was more of like a motivational interview, which is stuff that we've done before, where like a patient comes in and has hypertension but doesn't want to take their medication, so we kind of have to go through that conversation. Or the patient comes in and wants to stop smoking, so we have to go through that, where those encounters aren't really diagnosing anything or doing any sort of physical exam, but they're really important and stuff that doctors do all the time. So it was similar to that, but it was a little bit different in the fact that the patient had a certain condition that they needed to take a medication for, but they were really worried about the side effects. We kind of had to use our knowledge and sort of outside resources to investigate the patient's concerns, see if there was any evidence out there to either support or refute their worries, and then sort of come back and be like, I understand your feelings about your condition and this medication, but this is the evidence. I really feel like this medication is best for you, that kind of stuff. So that was also a really interesting case, something that I wasn't expecting, but once again, very important and stuff that doctors do all the time, especially with how easily accessible so many different resources are through the internet to patients. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to eat real quick and then head to bed because I have to drive all the way back up to school tomorrow morning for my shelf exam. All right, so I'm back in New Jersey after visiting my family in Maryland after my shelf exam. It's sort of been a tradition to go back home after exams just because I actually have time to relax. I don't have to be worried about studying and can just enjoy my time with my friends and family. But before talking about the weekend, gotta talk about the shelf exam. So Friday morning, 8:30, we had our shelf exam, which was 110 questions. We had 2 hours and 45 minutes to complete it, which, 2 hours, 45 minutes seems like a lot of time, but these exams are pretty different from our preclinical exams in the sense that you have these huge prompts and huge stories that you have to read before answering a question. So you have about a minute and a half per question, but a majority of that time is spent just reading the question, and you don't have too much time to really think through what is going on. You kind of have to know stuff pretty immediately if you want to finish everything on time. So I started, everything was going good, and then maybe after about question 30 or 40, I noticed that I was sort of falling behind pacing-wise, so I really had to pick stuff up, and I ended up finishing like 10 minutes early, so I did have a little bit of time to go back and review some of the questions that I wasn't like 100% on, but all in all, I think it went okay. I mean, that was definitely one of the harder exams I've ever taken. Kind of knew going in. I mean, obviously, like the MCAT is very different. It's a lot longer, but I really do think that this was harder than the MCAT. We should get our scores in the next few days. Not really sure when, but I think it should be sometime like early next week, so thankfully don't have to wait too long. But one thing to keep in mind when you're in the clinical phase of medical school is your tests aren't everything. They're actually a pretty small component of your grade, at least at Hackensack. In terms of like our overall final grade, our shelf score only counts for 25% of our grade, so you don't do great. You can still do pretty well overall in the course if you do well in all the other aspects, most of which is your clinical evals at the end of the block. So after the shelf exam, went and hung out with some old friends who were doing their rotations up north, and I haven't really seen them at all. That was really nice, and then Mackenzie and I went back to Maryland. We got in pretty late, around like 10:30. That was just because we were with our friends for a little bit longer than we expected, but we got home, just crashed. And then Saturday was just a very relaxing day. We hung around, went shopping. I'm trying to find maybe some other shoes for surgery. I know that a lot of people wear like Crocs or different like Uggs that are all rubber just for surgery because it can get pretty messy and you want something that you can like easily wipe off. Didn't find anything, but we'll see what is going on when I actually start surgery and see what people are wearing. Saturday also went to one of my favorite restaurants, so that was really nice. Hadn't been there in a really long time actually. And then just cooked and ate dinner with my parents. Saturday got my hair cut, which was much needed. And then some more of my family, like my brother and grandparents came over. We had dinner, and now here we are. It's always bittersweet to leave because the weekends just always feel way too short. I do kind of wish that there were some more just short breaks built in. I mean, it's kind of wild that we always go from one block to the next after 2 days, like especially going from taking that IM test and only having 2 days off, and now I have to start surgery tomorrow. I don't know, I just wish I had a few more days to recover because I really don't have a lot of free time anymore. Rotations are way busier than preclinical, and while the stuff that you're doing is a lot more exciting and the days go by quicker, it's pretty easy to get burnt out when, you know, you're working a 10-12 hour day and then have to come home and study for one of the hardest tests you've ever taken. So with all that being said, I am done with internal medicine officially. As long as I pass my test, that just means I am on to surgery. I'm really excited for this rotation. I know that it's going to be even more hours than I was working in IM, and it's going to be harder work, but I think I'm really going to enjoy the days a lot more because I do really like the operating room. So I'm interested to see a bunch of different types of surgery, meet all the surgeons at my hospital, learn from them. Yeah, overall, I think it's going to be a really good time, but it is going to be a grind. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like below and subscribe if you want to see videos like this in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.